Okay, well, my peanut butter video went okay, so I decided to make another go at it. Something just a little bit more complicated, but not by any means beyond most people's reach. So, today I'm going to make, and I already forgot, hummus. And you can buy hummus in a store, obviously. Now, I don't know what it's like in the United States because I haven't lived there in so long, but I imagine it's probably pretty pricey. Here in Chile, where I've been living for the last 16 years, it's also quite pricey. Even buying prepared hummus in a can is significantly more expensive. And of course, buying something in a can as opposed to maybe something in a deli section, although cheaper, is not going to have anywhere near the nice flavor. And so it's really not that hard. You'll need chickpeas or garbanzo beans, and in my case, and I've already prepared this, I would have to have really thought about this before, but here what I have is about 500 grams of soaked chickpeas, garbanzo beans. And for you gringos, you North Americans, Americans for some people, 500 grams is a little bit more than a pound. A pound is 453.5 something grams, so it's a little bit more than a pound. Soaked in about 2.5 cups of water, and I usually cook it a little bit, get the water really hot, and then let it soak. And during that 24-hour period, I would probably actually heat up the water again. Just soaking it in cold water, I suppose, would work, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to be ready in 24 hours. Okay, I've got the chickpeas, and you always want to have a little extra water too for the process. And so I soaked mine a little too long, and then if you can even see here, while cooking, I kind of cooked it a little too much. Hopefully it doesn't affect the flavor. Maybe I'll get that nice little toasted flavor. And so you'll want, again, about a pound of chickpeas. You'll want about a couple lemons. I think actually this is not really a lemon. I think this is a lime. But in these COVID-19 days, you have to make do with what you have. Garlic, ideally fresh. I suppose you could use powdered garlic. Be better than nothing, but I wouldn't want to try that. And then you need, well, in Spanish, because I'm living in a Spanish-speaking country, cumin, which is comino. I'm saying that right to you Spanish speakers. Some sesame seeds. Ideally, you would want some sesame oil. I have actually never prepared it with sesame oil. I normally actually use olive oil, and then I wasn't even really able to get the olive oil because I generally just buy, basic olive oil, and the only thing I could find was the expensive stuff. So I'm going to use canola oil, and I don't think it's going to affect the flavor from what I'm used to anyway. And then salt. Sal in Spanish for you non-Spanish speakers. Yeah? Okay. So the first thing we're going to need to do is make the tahini, which I probably should have explained when I was showing the ingredients. The sesame seeds, which, okay, that's not working. Normally I would just pour this out of a bag or something, which would be a lot better. With the exception of maybe the garbanzo beans. Actually, this is the exception. Everything else the quantity is pretty much the same, more or less. But with this, it's not really, I've never really measured the volume or the weight. Essentially what I've just been doing, use the amount proportionate to the size of my food processor, molidor, for you Spanish speakers. Anyway, so I use about that much. And very much how I would make my peanut butter, I'm going to grind these out until it becomes a powder, and then I'm going to start adding in some olive oil, which will make our tahini. Now, apparently, I suppose somewhere in the United States where you can find just about a little bit of everything, it seems. You could of course buy your own tahini, but that would be kind of cheating. And when I'm cooking in general, I try as much as possible to work with the most basic ingredients, because I really pride myself on making truly homemade things that, you know, start from the most basic of ingredients whenever possible. Okay. And then I just add in a little oil. And what I want, oops, that was that looks better because the bottle's full, but this one is already open. This is why I'm the unofficial chef. A good chef would have this all scripted out and everything, you know, looking really professional, and I'm just kind of like, okay, this is it. And much like the peanut butter, I was going to say that the hummus, even though there are very specific ingredients in general amounts, it's not extremely precise. Every time I make it, it comes out a little different in flavor. I add a little bit more garlic. Oh, love the garlic. Or maybe a little bit extra cumin that I wouldn't have done. So it's always a little different. As opposed to something, for example, like when I make my cookies, future video, all the ingredients are very precise. Because a little bit too much butter, and they're going to come out flat. A little too much flour, and they're going to come out really tall and just kind of too heavy. And so when I'm making my cookies, I will actually weigh my ingredients down to the gram, so I get the same mix every time. But with making my hummus, that is not the case. And I should say with the sesame seeds, you could use either toasted, or in this case I'm using non-toasted. And again, I'm just adding a little extra oil as I go, because I really, unlike when I make my peanut butter and I'm making multiple batches, and you know, one batch that might have a little too much oil, I could make another batch to balance it out. This, I'm only going with one batch, so I don't want to overdo it. I want it to be just creamy enough, and that's about the right amount of oil, because it's getting nice and creamy. I think that's pretty good. And I suppose you could use the tahini for other things. By itself, it's kind of on the bitter side. The first taste you get is almost like, oh my god, that's good, and then the bitter hits, and then it's like, it's not bad, depending on whatever you prefer. I mean, if you're one of those people who like grapefruit, maybe you'll really love this. It's an integral ingredient into the hummus, and so when mixed with the chickpeas and the garlic and the lemon and everything else, it's fantastic. And really, really healthy. Because aside from the cooked garbanzo beans, chickpeas, everything else is raw. And so you get all the vitamins out of these raw sesame seeds. Well, actually, I go out of my way to make sure I use all of it. But basically, this is the quantity that I'm going to use while I'm making my tahini. Essentially, every batch I'm going to use about, 2 of these rough tablespoons for every batch. And so that's part number 1. And so next step, and this probably doesn't need to be on video, but I'm just trying to be thorough, is you're going to want some lemon juice. And so, you might have like a really good squeezer. I just stick the fork in here and pull it out. And I'll fish these little bad boys out. No, yep, there we go. Yep. So yeah, you'll need a couple lemon juice. Again, you can buy your lemon juice, you can buy your tahini, but at that point, I mean, you might as well just buy the hummus while you're at it. Now, to be fair, I used to live in the United States, and I would buy, for example, waffle mix, pancake mix, which is essentially the same thing. And then I came to Chile, and I could buy it in Chile, but then I realized it's really easy to make. Another video. And so I liked hummus, and I just, looked it up online, made it. Found out it tastes pretty good making it myself, and, saving the money and time. So I got the lemon, and I got the tahini. Next up. And so next thing, we need the garlic. Oh my god. It's hard for me to say that any one ingredient is more important than the other. I couldn't imagine making this again without the tahini. God forbid the garbanzo beans is the base. But making it without garlic, garlic just makes everything taste good. For you garlic haters out there, stop the video, go away, crawl back underneath the rock that you came from. Garlic is the spice of life. And so I tend to, now I think the recipe, if I remember correctly, says something like 1 per batch, but I'm like a 2 per batch person, and I've actually gone a little bit more than that and had a friend of mine tell me that it was a little heavy, but I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to say that too much garlic is bad. I don't know if that's possible. So what I'm going to do with these little guys here, now maybe someone has a better way. I think I've seen these little roller things. You stick them in a roller and it pulls the skin off. I just give them a little squeeze. So I'm going to need somewhere about maybe 8 of these pieces. And while I'm making it, I'm actually going to be crushing it. But just for the purposes of making sure I get basically equal amounts, I prefer to crush it on the spot. And that's about it. So here I've got, oops, I gotta cut that off a little bit more. But I've got, you know, I'm gonna have 1 batch here, and then another batch. I won't use 2 giant pieces, but I might use like a giant piece and a little piece. There's another batch there, and then maybe that's a batch, and I'll have a little extra for, you know, an omelet or something another day. God forbid the garlic doesn't last long in my house. Yeah, and so we got the lemon juice, we got the tahini, we got the garlic, and we're just about ready to start making the hummus. I'm ready to go. I got my my food processor. I also I use this for the garlic press. Anything similar would be fine. Just something that's gonna make it sort of nice and fine when you're making your mix. And so the first thing I'll do, and I am not prepared. There we go. Just scooper. I'll scoop in a decent amount. I don't want to overdo it, and I want to actually add a little bit of the moisture. Now, how much you mix it just depends on what kind of consistency. The main ingredient really is the chickpeas. The tahini is already pretty smooth, and you know everything else is not going to affect it. And again, since I'm going to be making many batches, the more I mix it, the more I'm burning down the motor, and I don't want to do that. So, I'm going to add in, if memory serves, a couple tablespoons of the tahini. And I'll put one on one side and one on the other. For salt, I just put a pinch. Now, of course, you can add this later. It's all going in the same place, but I'll just do it like that. Garlic, one at a time, and actually I need a knife. And you're going to want to do it really close, because sometimes I find I'm pressing it and it sort of catches and just boop, and it just spits out everywhere. It makes a mess. And I want the garlic to go, obviously, in my food. God. Yums, yums, yums. Again, you garlic haters, well, I've already said it. I'm not going to be too mean. then the comino. Now I already had an open bag. I showed you the closed bag. There's my nice. I'm using, now this is 1/8 teaspoon. You don't want to put in too much. It really affects the flavor. It's really strong. I would, if my memory serves me, I'm putting in not quite 2 of these 1/8 teaspoons. Just maybe about like that. And hopefully I didn't overdo it. Again, I haven't made this in about a year. And then, last but not least, just a little bit of the lemon juice on top. And then mix away. Again, at this point, you're really just doing it to make sure the ingredients mix well. Now, depending on how much, again, going back to my peanut butter, depending on how liquefied this is, I may make another batch with a little less liquid to get the right consistency. And I have to be careful because the motor, it doesn't feel that bad. And taste test. Oh yeah, not so bad. You can taste the difference in the almost overcooked chickpeas, but that's pretty good. I think it's a little on the runny side, but I can make that up in another batch. So, and again, gotta be careful because this is going to make a mess, especially going to get done. And actually, I probably should have scooped some out because I really don't want to get anything down in the blade connector there. And again, wash your hands, especially in these COVID-19 days times, but always cleanliness, cooking. And I want to avoid, if at all possible, getting any down there in that the blade connector hole. Let's take that back and get the top, and then really slowly just kind of scoop it out. Again, trying to avoid getting any hummus inside. Let's see, I got a little in there. Oh, it's almost unavoidable. That's basically it. I'm going to keep repeating this until I've used up all the chickpeas. But, and actually I think this container is actually going to be too small. This makes quite a lot. And so once you get it the way you like it, now there are lots of different, this is by no means my recipe. I found a recipe online. I found them to be mostly generally the same. Some of them add some other different types of spices, and by all means, I would definitely experiment. I can't say that I've ever really prepared something perfectly the first time. It's a matter of trial and error, and that's what makes cooking so fun. I mean, in my case, living in Chile, although I could find tahini, I can't find really good peanut butter, and I can't find some other stuff. I can't find corn tortillas, so I have to make my own. But it's not, again, if you live in the United States, it's not about the fact that you can't find it. It's the satisfaction of making your own food. And I don't know how many of these I actually need to show. It just needs a little bit more garlic. Of course, you have to be careful after you've really let it sit for 24 hours or so. That's when you really get all the flavors mixed in. As pretty much with anything, except for the peanut butter, it's just peanuts. But if I'm making my homemade salsa, ooh, another video, or my hummus, what I've found is that after 24 hours or more, that's when the flavors really soak in. And that's good. And see how this turned out compared to the last one. Oh yeah, that hit the spot. Of course, waiting a little, I can really get the garlic on that one. And then tomorrow, oh my God, that's going to be a beast. But that's okay. Now, if you're eating garlic, again, garlic lovers, the good people, smart people, you're really, with this much garlic, you're going to want to be eating it at the same time. Otherwise, kissing is going to be out of the question. And I thought, you know, the peanut butter, oh God, I love my peanut butter, but it's pretty much, I suppose I'm limiting myself, but peanut butter for me is peanut butter sandwich, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, maybe sometimes just a little bit of peanut butter on bread instead of, you know, using butter or something. Just a nice spread, but the hummus is good with so many things. Yeah, I know, I could use peanut butter with my celery or something, but I've never really been a big fan of that. But with the hummus, oh my God, it's just good on everything. I put the hummus on bread, I put the hummus on vegetables, I put the hummus on crackers. I mean, the hummus is just, hummus is good with everything. And there you go. All done. Actually, I filled up this container just about all the way, and I did look at the bottom, and this is actually 1.2 liters. And for you, well, actually they use liters in the United States a little bit with soda, but a liter is slightly more than a quart. And then here, well, this is hard to say, but maybe about half, thereabouts. So you end up with quite a lot. If you live alone like I do, you really need to find someone to give it away to, because it will, I mean, the lemon helps preserve it a little bit, but it's probably going to go bad before you have a chance to eat it all. And now with this COVID-19 situation, and I'm not really in contact with many people, I'm going to have to find ways to eat it, or give it away to my neighbors or something. Anyway, not hard to make. I want to give a shout out to my brother Dylan Panko for as a general inspiration for making videos and all the good videos he makes. I was always thinking about maybe doing something, and I'll try and do a few more of these videos, but really specifically, and now I risk making a fool of myself, but yeah, you know, you only live once, right? Specifically, my inspiration was for this girl who I just met, who I really like and I think is really interesting and really, really interesting to talk to. And she made me, well, not made me, she inspired me to do these videos. You know who you are. I am not just a regular stupid guy who doesn't know what to do with himself in the kitchen. I can actually do stuff, although I have a feeling that she's better than I am. Anyway, for you other guys out there, and actually I know a guy, I'm not going to mention his name either, and hopefully he'll watch this. I was basically useless in the kitchen. This is not hard. It is not hard to make easy, good food. Anyway, I'm hoping this video impresses my new, because I really sound like an idiot. But I have to ask, are you impressed? Maybe just a little bit, tiny. Okay, I don't know. I'll find out. Or she'll just stop talking to me.